Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Garak predicted 7 of 9 Starfleet career. When Star Trek Deep Space Nine introduced Elam Garak, the enigmatic Cardassian tailor spy, he immediately became one of the most intriguing and unpredictable characters in the franchise. Played with chilling subtlety by Andrew Robinson, Garak operated in the shadows of DS9's promenade, offering sharp suits, sharper wit, and the kind of layered morality that challenged the Federation's squeaky clean optimism. Years later, in Star Trek Voyager, another outsider would join the pantheon of iconic Trek characters, 7 of 9, a former Borg drone played by Jeri Ryan. Stripped of her collective identity, 7 embarked on a journey of reintegration, self-discovery, and ultimately, leadership. On the surface, Garak and 7 couldn't be more different. One is a seasoned manipulator from a spy culture rooted in duplicity, the other, a forcibly liberated drone relearning emotion and autonomy. But dig a little deeper, and a fascinating pattern emerges, one that suggests Garak's arc on DS9 foreshadowed, or perhaps predicted, the remarkable trajectory of 7's Starfleet career. In many ways, Garak was the prototype for what 7 would become. A person molded by a totalitarian machine who ultimately uses that conditioning for the betterment of the Federation, not its destruction. Let's unravel the threads of this unlikely connection. Outsiders who understand the system better than insiders, both Garak and 7 enter the story from the outside. Neither was born in the Federation nor trained by Starfleet. Their values, loyalties, and even neural wiring were forged in profoundly different environments. Garak in the Obsidian Order, Cardassia's secret police, and 7 in the Borg Collective. Yet both quickly proved themselves invaluable to Starfleet crews. Garak's knowledge of espionage, diplomacy, and Cardassian infrastructure often makes him the only person capable of navigating situations that the otherwise rule-bound Starfleet officers struggle with. Similarly, 7's deep knowledge of Borg technology and her analytical mind regularly saves Voyager from existential threats. Their outsider status gives them an edge. They understand the rigid machinery of their former world so intimately that they can dismantle or outmaneuver it when necessary. This mirrors how real-world institutions often rely on reformed experts, former hackers hired as cybersecurity consultants, or ex-intelligence officers turned diplomats. In the Star Trek universe, Garak represents this phenomenon first, and 7 elevates it into full-blown leadership. The Federation as a redemptive arena. Both characters enter the Federation sphere not by choice, but by circumstance. Garak is exiled from Cardassia, living a lonely, ambiguous life as a tailor while quietly watching the Alpha Quadrant's great powers play their games. 7 is severed from the Borg during a conflict with species 8472 and is forcibly returned to individuality by the Voyager crew. At first, both resist their surroundings. Garak maintains a shroud of sarcasm and secrecy. 7 openly rejects the idea of individuality, calling it inefficient. But slowly, both characters soften, though neither ever fully assimilates. The Federation doesn't demand their loyalty through force. Instead, it invites them to participate in something better. What's more remarkable is that neither Garak nor 7 becomes a perfect Federation citizen, and that's precisely what makes their character arcs so powerful. In DS9's The Wire, Garak confesses to Julian Bashir that the truth is usually just an excuse for a lack of imagination. He never truly abandons his Cardassian roots, but he does choose to act with moral courage when it matters, particularly during the Dominion War. 7, similarly, never loses her Borg efficiency or bluntness, but her journey toward empathy and personal identity makes her one of the most human characters in Trek. In both cases, the Federation acts not as a brainwashing tool, but as a moral compass, allowing them to decide who they wish to be. Garak was proof that such redemption was possible. 7 was the realization of that promise. Tactical minds, strategic hearts. One of the most underappreciated similarities between Garak and 7 is their mastery of strategy. Garak's manipulation of events during the Dominion War, including his chilling choice to assassinate the Romulan Senator Vreenak to bring the Romulans into the war, is the kind of hard, morally gray decision that Starfleet captains often shy away from. It's ugly but effective. He understands that sometimes peace comes at the cost of moral purity. 7 also becomes known for her tactical brilliance. On Voyager, she regularly designs force fields, weapons, and computational systems that surpass anything the rest of the crew can muster. But her true strategic evolution becomes most clear in Star Trek: Picard. As a Fenris Ranger and later an acting Starfleet captain, she blends her Borg-born precision with an emerging ethical framework, a combination not unlike Garak's own, albeit on the side of active command rather than subterfuge. Where Garak shows that sometimes the Federation needs dirty hands to stay clean, 7 proves that someone shaped by those dirty hands can eventually wear the uniform and do it better than those born into it. The journey from other to leader. The most obvious connection between Garak and 7 becomes clear in 7's eventual rise to command in Picard, Season 3. Once mistrusted, feared, and rejected by Starfleet due to her Borg implants and past, 7 slowly wins respect through competence, courage, and conviction. By the end of the series, she becomes captain of the USS Enterprise G. This evolution, from Borg to Ranger to Starfleet captain, may be the most inspiring in the franchise. But it's a journey that Garak never got to make. Despite all his heroism in DS9's final seasons, Garak never formally joined Starfleet. He returned to a fallen Cardassia as an advisor and diplomat. One can't help but wonder if Garak, had he been born a few decades later, might have followed the same path 7 did. In fact, the seeds of this possibility were planted in DS9 itself. Episodes like In the Pale Moonlight and Inter Arma Enim's Silent Ledges showed how Starfleet's moral high ground was not always a tactical advantage. Garak knew that. He worked in the shadows because someone had to. 7, standing on the bridge of the Enterprise, is proof that those shadows can become light if the right person chooses to lead. Legacy and foreshadowing. While there is no direct line from Garak to 7, their parallel narratives form a philosophical evolution in Star Trek storytelling. Garak represents a time when outsiders were tolerated but never truly embraced. His value is acknowledged, but his ethics are kept at arm's length. 7's arc suggests the Federation grew from that lesson. By Picard, Starfleet is ready to trust someone who doesn't fit the mold, not just use them. In that way, Garak's story predicted 7's. He was a test case for the Federation's ideals. Could someone forged in the worst traditions of authoritarianism become an ally? A moral actor? A hero? 7 answered those questions not just with words, but with action, leadership, and sacrifice. If Garak showed that a tailor could be a spy and a savior, 7 showed that a drone could become a captain. Conclusion: from tailor to trailblazer. In the end, Garak and 7 of 9 are opposite sides of the same coin. Garak manipulated history from behind a sewing,